Another key term to know is holdover clause. Holdover happens if a tenant fails to surrender or leave the space and continues to remain there after their lease term expires without having previously signed a new agreement. The tenant would then be considered a tenant at sufferance and is required to pay typically either 150% or even 200% of their prior rental rate. Another term to know or to differentiate between are lease commencement, rent commencement, and beneficial occupancy. Lease commencement is the official legal start of the lease and when the tenant takes possession of the space, whereas rent commencement often lags behind lease commencement, as there's frequently a period of free rent that can be negotiated into the lease where the tenant does not need to pay. And occasionally we can also negotiate for beneficial occupancy, which this is early entry to the space prior to lease commencement, where the tenant may enter the premises for the purpose of installing fixtures or phone and data equipment, things like that, provided that they show evidence of insurance and it doesn't significantly interfere with the landlord's work.
Excellent, Diana. Those are all great points. I want to add a couple of more terms that are frequently asked about or questioned, and I want to dive in on a couple that you had mentioned. So number one, a key term that we hear a lot about is a right to relocate. A non-real estate attorney is going to lose their mind over this. They're going to be so upset and go, why? We don't want to be relocated. That's not fair. So what I usually ask an attorney, especially the non-real estate attorneys who don't know what they're talking about, is number one, how often does this come about? Like, what's the likelihood of this clause to come into effect? And then number two, let's say it does come into effect. What's the cost to remedy? Those are really the two most important questions to be asking your attorney. What's the likelihood of this happening? And what would the cost to remedy be? If they're both very low, skip it, move on. Don't even talk about it. The right to relocate is one of those clauses where, number one, it doesn't come up very often. And if you put the proper terminology and barriers, parameters, if you will, around that clause, it can actually benefit the tenant. So what you can put in is, all right, the landlord gets a right to relocate the tenant, and they normally want that right so that they can bring in a much larger tenant. But you're able to put in, as the tenant, you can put in such parameters as, we need to be relocated to a higher and better floor with a higher and better view. The landlord's going to cover all costs. They're going to build out the new space to make it look the same as the space we already had. And they're going to redo all of our business cards and stationery and things like that. And so really all it's going to end up doing is benefiting the tenant. So before the attorney who doesn't really specialize in real estate gets all up in arms over a clause like this, I like to try and explain it and let them know that you can put parameters that are actually beneficial to the tenant around that clause.